Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're diving into something we all know pretty well, desire. That feeling, wanting what you don't have, that whole grass is greener thing. We're going to explore why that happens and, well, whether we're maybe more caught up in the idea of things than the things themselves.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it, how that sense of something being just out of reach feels, well, somehow better or more exciting. It's a constant in human experience.
Absolutely. And it leads to this big question, something you've probably thought about too. Can we actually generate those feelings, the wanting, maybe even the satisfaction, without needing the actual external stuff?
Right. Can you sort of conjure it up internally?
Yeah. So we'll look at the neuroscience, the psychology, is it even possible? And our mission today is really to unpack that, this whole idea of simulating desire and fulfillment inside ourselves. What does the science say? What are the, implications for you?
Okay.
Okay, so first things first, desire itself. Where are we so pulled towards what we lack?
Well, psychologically, it often comes down to a perceived gap, doesn't it? A feeling that something's missing. But what's really interesting from a brain perspective is this idea of prediction error.
Prediction error?
Yeah, basically our brains seem to get a bigger kick out of anticipating a reward than actually getting it. The expectation, the build-up, that's what really grabs our attention.
Oh, that completely rings true. It's like planning a vacation, right? All the excitement leading up to it. Sometimes that almost feels better than, well, parts of the actual trip.
Exactly. That anticipation, the mental energy you pour into wanting something, it's incredibly powerful.
So that ties into the grass is greener thing then.
It does. Partly it's hedonic adaptation. We have this baseline happiness level we tend to return to no matter what happens.
Yeah. The novelty wears off.
Right, and that's the other part. Novelty bias. Our brains just really like new things. They're wired for it.
Okay. So that explains why, that amazing new relationship eventually feels normal. Or the super exciting gadget just becomes, well, your phone.
Precisely. The initial rush fades as the novelty decreases, and we adapt.
So if our brains love anticipation and novelty so much,
Yeah.
the big question is, can we actually, trigger those feelings ourselves? Desire, satisfaction, and internally, without the new phone or the perfect relationship?
Well, from a neuroscience standpoint, the answer seems to be yes. It looks like we can. Mental simulation is a very real thing.
How so?
Brain scans show that when we vividly imagine something pleasurable or, say, achieving a goal we really want, a lot of the same brain areas fire up as when we actually experience it.
Wow. Like which areas?
Well, you've got the visual cortex, obviously, for creating the mental pictures, but also the prefrontal cortex that's involved in planning and anticipation, and the limbic system, which is kind of our emotional control center.
That's incredible. So when an athlete, visualizes winning, or someone meditating tries to generate feelings of joy or peace,
Yeah.
their brain is actually mirroring the real thing to some extent.
That's the idea, yeah.
Yeah.
Even the placebo effect gives us a clue, right?
Mm.
Just believing a sugar pill will work can cause real physical changes. It shows how powerful our minds are in shaping our internal state, our feelings. So yeah, the potential to simulate these states seems to be there.
This really makes you think about that initial point, our fascination with the idea of things. Are we sometimes just more in love with the perfect picture in our head?
It's a deep philosophical question, really. Thinkers have grappled with this for ages. You've got Plato, for instance.
Okay.
He talked about the physical world being just a kind of shadow, an imperfect copy of these perfect eternal forms or ideas. So from that view, being drawn to the idealized image makes total sense. It's closer to the real thing, the perfect form.
That's a powerful thought. And you see echoes of that today, don't you?
Absolutely. Jean Baudrillard talked about simulacra copies without an original. Think about, the perfect lives you see online.
Yeah. Instagram Lives.
Exactly. We might chase that image, that simulation of happiness, even if it's completely disconnected from reality. And then you have philosophers like Schopenhauer, who basically saw desire as suffering, a constant cycle of wanting, brief satisfaction, then boredom, then more wanting.
It's a bit bleak.
It can sound that way, yeah, but it highlights this tension.
So, okay, if we can simulate these feelings, what are the upsides? What are the potential benefits here?
Well, potentially, quite a few. It could be a really powerful tool for emotional regulation, helping you cultivate, say, peace or contentment without needing everything outside you to be perfect.
Okay, like managing your internal state better.
Exactly. You can also build resilience. Imagine being able to tap into feelings of abundance or gratitude even when, things are tough externally. Think about practices like mindfulness or gratitude journal. They kind of do this already, helping us focus on and appreciate what we do have.
Right, but surely there are downsides too. Risks in trying to just simulate fulfillment.
Oh, definitely. That's crucial to consider. One big risk is escapism, right? You could just retreat into your nice internal simulation instead of actually dealing with the real world, facing challenges, growing.
You just check out mentally.
Exactly. And there's a question about motivation, too. If you can just feel successful or happy whenever you want, does that reduce your drive to achieve things in the real world or to connect authentically with other people?
That's a really good point. So the way we use this ability, the intent, seems critical.
Absolutely. Is it a tool for self-awareness, for managing emotions better so you can engage more effectively with life? Or is it becoming a way to avoid reality, to disconnect? That's the ethical tightrope, really.
Okay, so bottom line, can we intentionally capture these feelings? The answer seems to be yes, but with some important hows and whys attached.
Precisely. It's possible, much like, artists imagine worlds or spiritual practitioners cultivate specific states through meditation. But things like intentionality, are you doing this for growth or avoidance? Self-awareness and keeping it balanced with reality, those are key.
Right. Now, the reflection you shared gets into some practical techniques for actually training our minds to do this. Let's start with cognitive simulation. What's involved there?
Okay. Cognitive simulation is basically using your mind, your imagination, to create experiences that feel vivid, almost real. A key technique is sensory visualization or mental rehearsal.
Like picturing something.
It's more than just picturing. It's about engaging all your senses. So if you're imagining that peaceful vacation, don't just see the beach. Try to really feel the sun on your skin, hear the waves, smell the salty air, maybe even taste the coconut drink,
Gotcha. Make it fully immersive, multisensory.
Exactly. That makes it much more impactful for the brain. Another technique mentioned is memory reactivation.
Okay.
This is about deliberately recalling past moments when you felt intense joy or pride or fulfillment, and not just remembering it happened, but really focusing on reliving the feelings, the sensations from that memory.
So tapping into your own positive history.
Yeah. By revisiting those states, you strengthen the neural pathways linked to them. It's like exercising those positive emotion muscles.
And the third one was hypothetical anchoring.
Right. Hypothetical anchoring. This is where you create fictional scenarios in your mind and just allow yourself to feel the emotions that come up. Writers do this all the time, right? Actors, too.
Yeah, getting into character.
By exploring these imagined situations and your reactions, you learn more about your own emotional patterns, and you can even start to gently influence how you respond.
Interesting. Okay, then the reflection moves to emotional conditioning. That sounds a bit more direct, training the emotions themselves.
That's a decent way to put it, yeah. It's about building your ability to access specific emotional states more easily so you're less dependent on external triggers. One technique is emotional name tagging or affect labeling.
What's that involve?
Simply noticing an emotion as it arises and putting a name on it. Like mentally saying, this is frustration, or, okay, feeling contentment right now.
And that helps how?
It creates a little bit of space, a bit of distance between you and the feeling. It helps you observe it rather than just being swept away. It paradoxically gives you a bit more control and understanding.
I see. Labeling to manage it. Okay. What else for conditioning?
Gratitude amplification. This goes beyond just saying thanks. It's about really digging into why you're grateful for something. What deep need does it meet? What positive feeling does it connect to?
So not just thanks for the coffee, but maybe reflecting on the warmth, the ritual, the energy it gives you.
Exactly. That deeper reflection really boosts the feeling of gratitude itself. And the last conditioning technique mentioned was somatic triggers.
Somatic?
Yeah.
Body-based?
Yeah. Creating links between physical actions or sensations and specific emotions. Like maybe you always take a deep breath and relax your shoulders when you want to feel calm. With repetition, that physical action can become an anchor, a trigger to help you access that calm state more quickly. Kind of like Pavlov's dogs, but for your own emotions.
Okay, creating your own little emotional remote control using your body. Interesting. Now, how do we make sure we're using all this?
wisely. The reflection talked about philosophical and
Right, that's key. It's about making sure these internal practices actually align with your values and your overall growth. Reflective journaling is a great tool here.
how so?
After you do a simulation exercise, maybe just jot down, what did I feel? What was the core thing I was really wanting underneath that simulation?
Okay.
And maybe ask, can I bring a little bit of that underlying need, maybe connection or peace or creativity into my actual life,
Well,
even in small ways?
so connecting the inner feeling to outer understanding or action.
Okay.
Now, what about creating without consumption? What's that idea?
That's about redirecting the energy from those simulated emotions.
Yeah.
Instead of feeling proud after visualizing success and then immediately looking for external praise.
Yeah.
Maybe channel that feeling of pride into starting your next creative project or teaching someone a skill you have. Turn the internal feeling into outward expression, not just seeking more external input. I like that. Reinvesting the emotional energy. And finally, the ethical mirror check. Why is that so important?
It's the reality check, isn't it? You have to ask yourself honestly, is doing this making me more compassionate, more connected to others? Or is it actually making me more self-absorbed, more detached?
Right. Is it helping you engage with the world better or retreat from it?
Exactly.
Again.
Is it fostering generosity and empathy, or is it just creating a pleasant little bubble for yourself? It's about staying grounded and making sure these powerful tools serve a positive purpose, both for you and for others.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so building on that foundation, the reflection then introduces some slightly more complex ideas. Neural rewiring, narrative reconstruction, emotional alchemy. Can you unpack those a bit?
Sure. The idea is that real lasting change often goes beyond just brief moments of simulation. Neural rewiring is based on neuroplasticity, the fact that our brains change based on experience. So if you consistently practice simulating, say, confidence, and you combine that with taking small, confident actions in your daily life, you're literally strengthening the brain pathways for confidence.
So practice plus action reinforces the change in the brain.
Exactly. Then there's narrative reconstruction. This focuses on the stories we tell ourselves, especially about why we desire things.
Our inner monologue.
Yeah. If you want that promotion because deep down you believe you're not good enough without it, narrative reconstruction involves identifying that limiting story and consciously rewriting it. Maybe affirming, I am inherently valuable regardless of my job title. It shifts the foundation of the desire.
Changing the script that drives the wanting.
Got it.
And emotional alchemy. Sounds intriguing.
It's a bit more advanced, yeah. It's about the conscious transformation of one emotion into another, like learning to take the energy of anger and channel it into focused, assertive action instead of destructive rage, or maybe transforming envy into motivation or inspiration.
So taking the raw energy and reshaping it.
Precisely. It requires quite a bit of self-awareness about your emotional patterns and what's really driving them underneath.
Okay. Now, moving on, the reflection brought up this concept of an emotional toolkit. Why think about our emotions like tools?
It's a helpful metaphor, I think. It encourages you to see different emotional states, not just as things that happen to you, but as resources you can learn to access and use intentionally.
Like having the right tool for the job.
Kind of. So for each key emotion you want to cultivate, maybe peace, confidence, love, wonder you could identify specific triggers that tend to bring it up for you naturally.
Okay, like music or a memory.
Exactly. Then an anchor, maybe a physical gesture, like putting your hand on your heart for love, or a mental image. Then specific practices like a short meditation for peace or writing down affirmations for confidence. And finally, understanding the purpose. Why would you want to access this feeling? What does it help you do or be?
So for peace, the trigger might be rain sounds, the anchor, a slow exhale, the practice deep breathing, and the purpose to calm anxiety.
Perfect example. Building this kind of personalized toolkit makes you much more resourceful in navigating your inner world. You feel more equipped.
This leads us right into maybe the most fascinating part of the reflection, this idea of inner multiplicity, subpersonalities. What does that mean here?
Yeah, this is a really interesting way of looking at ourselves. The reflection suggests we're not just one single unified self. Instead, think of yourself as having different inner parts or subpersonalities.
Like different facets.
Exactly, each with its own distinct feelings, motivations, ways of seeing the world. It's presented as a way to understand your internal emotional landscape, your architecture, not as, a diagnosis of anything wrong.
So it's like recognizing there's a playful part of you and a serious, responsible part, maybe an ambitious part, a critical part.
Precisely. The reflection actually lists 10 examples, like an inner child focused on joy, a mentor on purpose, a queen bee on power, a lone wolf on discipline, and so on. The idea is that getting to know these different aspects helps you understand your own reactions and motivations better.
That's a really powerful framework. And the idea is to give each of these parts their own emotional toolkit.
Yeah, essentially extending that toolkit concept. If you understand, say, your caregiver part is strong on empathy, you can learn its specific triggers, anchors, practices, and the core emotional truth it holds about empathy. It helps you intentionally connect with that part when you need its strengths.
Is this idea of inner parts,
Mm?
is that unusual? Or is it something psychologists recognize?
Oh, it's very common in different forms. The reflection argues it's basically universal. Most of us recognize we act differently at work versus home, or feel like different selves when we're feeling brave versus anxious.
Yeah, definitely.
And psychologically, it resonates with models like internal family systems, IFS therapy, Jungian archetypes, or Pert's work used in many therapies. Acknowledging this inner multiplicity isn't weird. It's actually a pretty standard way of understanding the psyche.
Okay, so it's a recognized phenomena. And these parts, these subpersonalities, they could just pop up automatically depending on the situation.
Often, yes, that's our default mode, right? Something happens, and a particular part just reacts based on past conditioning. The boss criticizes you, maybe the inner critic part jumps in immediately.
Right.
But the goal here is to move towards more intentional activation, to become aware of who is stepping forward inside you, and then consciously choose to maybe invite a different part, perhaps the wise sage part, to offer perspective.
Like learning to conduct your own inner orchestra.
That's a great analogy, yeah. Instead of just letting whoever grabs the loudest instrument dominate, you learn to bring in different sections when needed.
And the core insight here, the really deep point, is that each part holds a specific kind of wisdom, a core emotional truth.
Exactly. Each subpersonality, because it's so connected to certain emotions, understands something fundamental about those emotions. Your inner child knows about pure joy in a way your realist part might not. Your mentor part understands purpose deeply. So learning to work with these parts is like learning directly from the emotions themselves.
Wow. Okay, so the whole point of all this isn't to, like, eliminate negative feelings or become some perfectly balanced robot.
Not at all. It's the opposite, really. It's about understanding your whole inner team, developing compassion for all your parts, even the difficult ones, and learning how to help them work together more effectively.
So it leads to better emotional regulation, more self-compassion.
Yes, and more intentional action, less reactivity. The reflection really emphasizes that this inner world, the feelings, the parts, it's real. It profoundly shapes your experience. The shift is from constantly chasing external things to fulfill you to learning to listen to and work with the resources you already have inside.
It reframes desire too, doesn't it? Not as a flaw, but maybe as a pointer, a direction.
Exactly. Desire shows you what you value, what matters. The trap is thinking the only way to satisfy that underlying need is through the specific external thing you're currently wanting.
Right. When maybe the real need for connection or security or meaning could be met partly from within by understanding which part of you holds that need and what it truly requires.
Precisely. The longing is like a breadcrumb trail. The emotion is the messenger telling you something's important. And the subpersonality is the guide who understands that terrain.
So ultimately, this is about becoming the architect of your own mind, in a way.
I think that's a good way to put it. Designing a mind that understands itself better, that can consciously access the states it needs, that can navigate its own emotional landscape with more skill and compassion. It's a lifelong practice, really, a form of inner mastery.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive, the final thought isn't about fighting yourself or becoming someone totally new.
No.
The invitation seems to be more about meeting yourself, all the different parts, giving your inner cast the mic, maybe.
Beautifully put, yeah.
So maybe take a moment after this to just reflect. Which parts or modes feel familiar to you? What core feelings or truths might they be holding? Perhaps exploring these ideas, the emotional toolkit, the inner multiplicity, could be a way for you to deepen your own self-understanding. And we'll leave you with this to chew on. If so many of the feelings we chase externally, love, peace, confidence, desire itself, actually already exist within our own internal landscape, what truly becomes possible when we learn how to access them intentionally from the inside out?
A powerful question to ponder.
Thanks for exploring the deep with us today.